some interesting comments on the mask wearing point from Bill Burr. You want to set this one up?
Yes, I do. So Bill Burr, comedian Bill Burr, absolutely roasted Ron DeSantis in an incredible little portion of his podcast. Let's take a look at this video.
DeSantis, whoever this guy is, and they have the most grumpiest looking photo ever. This guy is starting to build his stature in 2024. And he says he disagrees on mask mandates. These kids aren't wearing masks. The amount of people who not only don't even own a microscope or even have a pair of scrubs, unless they went to some Halloween party, who are literally questioning doctors. It's just, at this point, it's just hilarious. What do you know? These fucking piece of shit politicians. He knows that that's what his fan base wants him to do, so that's what the fuck he's going to do. Unbelievable.
What's interesting to me, Krystal, is whenever there's somebody who is not like the typical, PC lefty going after somebody, like it's easy to dismiss those people. Like you have pink hair, you're ridiculous, you overreach. But when it's Bill Burr, super politically incorrect, but also happens to lean left on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the criticism is so much more biting.
Yeah.
Like you just feel it more.
Lands.
You're like, oh, DeSantis is getting bodied right now.
Yeah, that's really true. And it's worth providing a little bit of the context here of what he's reacking to that DeSantis actually did.
Let me go ahead and dive into this. Let me show you guys this graphic here. So this is in NPR. Florida's governor says school leaders' salary may be withheld if they require masks. And then let me read you a little bit of this. As the majority of Florida's K-12 schools prepare to reopen campuses at full capacity this week, many of them on Tuesday, Governor Ron DeSantis announced that the State Board of Education could withhold pay from school leaders who implement mask mandates for students. The move to potentially punish educators follows days of controversy during which school district superintendents and school board members are seeking to comply with the CDC. They ignored an executive order from DeSantis banning school districts from requiring students to wear face masks. So, go ahead. You jump in.
My kids are back in school this week, actually, in public school, and they are not required to wear face masks. And the area where I live, isn't in the midst of like a gigantic Delta variant surge. So personally, for our county and, what's going on with my kids, I'm good with that decision. But what's so ridiculous about Republicans is that they're all about they're anti-big government and freedom and all of that until some liberal locality makes a decision that they don't like.
Yeah.
And then they pull the full authoritarian force of the government coming down. I mean, this is ridiculous. These are people who consistently argue for local control and the importance of that in a republic and all of this. But then in order to make some weird political statement, you're not only going to ban school systems for doing what their school board, which is elected, and, the parents in their community think is right for their children based on local conditions, but then you're going to go that extra level of punishing them and withholding their salary and all of that. It's just completely ridiculous. And the other thing that has always struck me as so weird is these are the same people who are not in favor of any kind of vaccine mandate or really pushing people to get the vaccine, and they're skeptical of COVID. If you want to make sure you don't have lockdowns and keep things open and allow these schools to be able to function, then you should be in favor of the type of protective measures like masking that can make sure that you don't have to go back into lockdown because there's a breakthrough surge in one of these communities.
Now, if you leave it up to the individual schools in Florida, my guess is most of them actually would do what DeSantis wants, which is just, they're not going to wear masks. Yeah. And that's fine. They have the authority to do that. But remember, DeSantis is purposefully going out there to say this so that you don't listen to the CDC guidance at the moment, because the CDC is saying it's probably a good idea if you guys want to do it. So, yes, I mean, it's just another clear example of when when he thinks the decision is not going to line up with his own politics, then he imposes. And
Burr hits the nail on the head, which is that he's not doing this because he really cares about masks or any of that. He's doing it because it's a political stunt. He wants to run for president. He thinks the base will eat this up.
And this is the culture war issue, right?
This is the culture war issue. And he's very good at this. He's done this a number of times. He did it with his like tech censorship thing, which had a gigantic carve out for Disney, by the way. But he
his
made
protesting bill too.
Made a big show of that. His protesting bill is another
Yep.
great example of banning certain types of protests and also making it effectively illegal for you to run protesters over with your car and making it a felony.
Making it legal for you to run protesters over with your car. You said illegal.
Oh, sorry. Making it legal.
Everybody got it.
Yeah. And then the last one was, this was really entertaining to see unfold, made it a felony to block a roadway with a protest. And then guess
Cuban
who
protesters did
who
it.
just blocked multiple roadways, including like interstates, I think, with their protests was the the Cuba protesters in the recent uprisings there. So the law wasn't applied to them. But anyway, the point is he's very good at seizing on these cultural issues, putting out a big press release, getting a bunch of media attention over it. He also, this didn't even like come across my radar, but this was apparently a big story across all of the cable news networks. He put out this merchandise that says, "Don't Fauci my Florida." And this got
What does that even mean?
Right. This got coverage on all three, significant coverage on all three of the cable news networks.
Jesus Christ.
Because I was doing research to see, what they had been covering instead of covering like the coal miners strike.
Right.
And there was another big labor story that wasn't getting, I think the Frito-Lay strike that didn't get any coverage either. And so I was like, okay, well, what were they covering? And all three of them had done like multiple segments on this "Don't Fauci my Florida" merchandise. So he is kind of the king of like seizing on these stupid cultural issues and making a big show of it for a national base. I did see some poll numbers that say in the state of Florida, his approval rating is tanking.
Is it? Wow.
But nationwide, if Trump doesn't run,
he's leading by a lot.
he's leading in terms of the Republican primary. So politically, it's working for him.
Yeah, and I guess the final point I want to make is that, listen, there's plenty of examples of like the experts and the doctors at every step of this pandemic being wrong. And so that needs to be said.
Yeah.
But at the same time, give me 100 decisions made by doctors and experts and medical advisors.
Yes.
Give me 100 of those, and then give me 100 DeSantis decisions. When it comes to the field of medicine and health, and the overwhelming majority of the time, I'm taking the doctors and the experts and the medical people over Ron DeSantis, a Republican politician, and that's Burr's point. And Burr actually made this point. Yeah, listen, I love Joe Rogan. He's a friend of mine. He's great. But Burr actually made this point to Joe Rogan in a podcast with Joe Rogan when Rogan wanted to talk about COVID, and he brought some stuff up. And Burr's like, "Really? We're gonna do this again? Listen, Joe, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. We're done with this." And Joe was giggling because Joe knew. Joe's contrary to what a lot of people believe, Joe's actually a really smart guy, and so you could see in his eyes that he was like, of course I know that I'm being silly and I don't know what I'm talking about. But Bill Burr was basically like, then let's nip this in the bud. We're done here. I don't want to talk about this. I don't know anything about this. Let's do a fart joke instead.
Yeah.
I do a terrible Bill Burr impression.
I thought that was pretty good,
You
actually.
liked it? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That was better than what I could pull off. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.